How's it going, Spooners? It's your boy Spoon here with a tier list. The last tier list I did, it was One Piece, but now I'm here and I'm ranking all the Pokemon games because tomorrow we have a very special day, which is the first game of Pokemon Generation 9 coming out, which is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So I thought I'd do my tier list ranking of all these games, and then once I finish those games, I'll chuck them on the tier list and we'll see where it is. Alright, so starting with red, blue, and yellow. These games, to me, I'm pretty young. For me, I've got to put these ones at like a B tier. Just because it's tough for me to rank these, because I know so many people would put them at S tier because they were obviously their first game. And I know this would like probably piss people off a bit, but this is like, there are so many different little problems and I'm sure you've all heard them all, especially with these games. Like there's so many little problems, but that being said, they are the baseline. If these games were released today, obviously they would be hated, but I think that's not really an excuse. That's not really like a valid argument, because obviously they weren't released today, and I feel like you wouldn't be able to release a Pokemon game today that bad. And also Pokemon is Pokemon, so we have to thank these games. So I thought B's solid, you know, it's middle of the road. As for yellow though, I've never played it, so I can't really speak on it. So yeah. Next we've got Gold, Silver, and Crystal. It's kind of the same thing here. Like I've played them, but you know, they're not, but like, obviously I've played them, but don't have that emotional attachment to them like so many people do. But I reckon I'm gonna have to keep these at, like, these will probably be a low A tier, just because of the fact you get the two regions. They're not S tier for me, because personally I think that Heart Gold, Soul Silver does the same concept well. It adds a little bit extra. For Silver, I've never played Silver as well, because even though I think it's objectively the better version as well to play, I've never played it. Alright, moving on, we've got Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and I can say for a fact I think I played Sapphire version. No, I played Ruby version and I played Emerald version, but I guess you can interchange Ruby and Sapphire equally. It just depends on the legendary, I guess. For me, I love these games. For me, these are high A tier. There's just something that I love about this kind of graphical development from Gold and Silver. I love the way the games look. They just look beautiful. The music is fantastic. The only reason why these are not A tier is because Emerald version exists. Even though for me it's the same thing, how I don't really have the nostalgic connection to them, I still really like these games. And I feel like if you're a new Pokemon fan, you want to play the older games, I would say that these three, not necessarily Emerald, these three are good entry points into playing the old games. Pokemon Emerald, it's not even necessarily about the battle facility, because when you're playing it like I have, not in a handheld console, although I'd really love to if I could play it on the handheld console, I get to the end, I don't put time into doing all that extra stuff. I play through the main story. I like the increased difficulty of Emerald version. Obviously it's the same thing with the region. I love the region. Same thing with the gameplay, I guess, even though the gameplay is the same basically throughout most of the games. At least the core is the same. But yeah, I love Emerald, so I'm going to chuck it in the S. I will play Emerald over Sapphire and Ruby just because it's that little bit harder. Next, we've got Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. Alright, I'm probably going to have to do some scaling real quick. Don't get this the wrong way. This is just me scaling things so that I have a tier to put things in. But I would chuck Fire Red, Leaf Green in here, Red and Blue down here. My reasoning for moving these down is they're still, everything I said about them still remains true. It's hard, because these games just improve on those aspects that were missing. They just make them better. They flesh them out, all within the Gen 3 style. Really solid battling. They've got some difficulty, but as what I said with Ruby and Sapphire, these games are probably the easiest if you're trying to get into the old games. These ones are the ones you want to play first, I would say, just because they're not particularly difficult, they're not particularly too hard, you know, you get the basics down, you kind of get used to the pixel graphics, especially if you've been raised kind of more on the 3D stuff from Gen 6 onwards. You get more used to those graphics. But yeah, I'm putting those there. All the things I said about Red and Blue apply here, but they're just improved. Things like the Sevi Islands, and I'm sure at the time the connectivity between Leaf Green, Ruby and Sapphire would have just been immaculate. Next we've got Diamond, Pearl and Platinum. As a child, I played Diamond, so obviously this game has a bit of value, sentimental value. Pearl, I didn't play as much, but I do have a copy of Pearl. I'm gonna put Diamond and Pearl in A tier. The only reason for me why they're not S is probably just the amount of time it takes for you to get through the battles. I guess, is this fixed? No, not really. It's not fixed in Platinum, but Platinum is the superior version. So I want to put Platinum in S tier because it has that increased difficulty. It's the same deal with Ruby Sapphire. I'm just very fond of the Sinnoh region as a whole. It's like one of my favorites out of the bunch. I like the whole, you go around and you go back up and you go down, you go everywhere, and then it feels like you're on this adventure much more than newer regions do. The new Pokemon in this region though, they're probably some of my favorites as well. Next we've got Heart Gold, Soul Silver. These are probably S tier for me. They've got that same sheen, that same shine, that same polish that the Gen 4 games do, but just applied to the older game. And it's just the perfect, ideal remake that you can ask for, especially with the regions and the Pokemon, the story, all that stuff. All that stuff is the same, just like Fire Red, Leaf Green. These are just that step above, especially with the modernization. Well, you can say modernization, but these games are like old as now. They're like 14 or so years old. Like, come on. You can't really say modern. I think I might put them in high A tier. I think it's the same. I think the thing that keeps me from keeping them up in S tier is just the fact that I don't really have much connection to these games. I don't own either of them. I never have. Obviously, if I could, I would. Or if I had, I'd still have them right now. I love playing them on a handheld console, but just in today's climate, that's not really that possible. But I just don't have much personal connection to this. I think that keeps it from an S. Now we've got Pokemon Black and White. These games aren't terrible, but I'd have to chuck them lower. Obviously, they've got fantastic storyline. They've got a solid batch of Pokemon. I never really played these ones. I own Pokemon... Which one is it? Pokemon White version? I own Pokemon White, but I bought that a couple years ago and I only played it once. I don't think I've even beaten it yet. I have gone back and played them on an emulator, as lots of people do. They're pretty good. I would say they've got really solid music. There's lots of solid things about them, but just they're not my favorites. That's all. It's the same thing with Pokemon Black 2, White 2. But I think these games are slightly better. I like the expanded region, even if it's just a little bit. I do like the expanded region. But it's mainly the same points, I would say. I do like the story-ish. I would say it's a kind of a step down in that department. It's not as good, it's not as good as the first game, but I think the other improvements like hitting grottos and stuff, they obviously help elevate these games just slightly above what Black and White were. I'm not saying that Pokemon Black and White were bad games. Alright, next we've got Pokemon X and Y. Now this is where we venture from 2D pixel graphics into full 3D. This is going to get some of you really annoyed, but these games are proper S tier for me. I love these games. People don't see it, people haven't seen it. I've been saying it for years. I just love these games. Although I have started seeing it recently on Twitter, people are saying that they've loved X and Y all along. That's BS, that's cap. I really have though. That's not saying I'm better than you or anything. I just am. I just have loved them. Mainly because these games were like sure, I played Diamond and Pearl. I played Diamond, But this is where I really found my, I guess, love for the games. I started really just like exploring them even more and even more. This is where I became like obsessed for a very good long time. This is where I started making friends that played Pokemon. You know, I started going to the Pokemon club at my intermediate. We would battle each other. When these games came out, whew, it was fun. We would just spend lunchtimes battling each other. It was my first real Pokemon with your friends experience where you're just like constantly engulfed in the, I guess, culture around it. There's so much I could say about these games. Sure, everyone hates the story, everyone hates Team Flare, but that for me is just like a small little nick in the game. I would have to place these, for me, high S tier, above Emerald and Platinum, and that is gonna seem to so many people like just a sin and like a crime against humanity, but for me that's just how it is for me. Next we've got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now I never played Omega Ruby, but I would chuck these games just below here. We've got Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. This is where the Pokemon Club started gaining some traction. Everyone was coming in, everyone was battling. Pokemon at this point obviously wasn't super popular. We were the nerds at intermediate, and you know, that's fine. As a child, that was fine for me. I just didn't care. We would battle, we would trade, you know, we'd complete the dexes together. We'd explore, you know, everyone was sharing their little secrets, their little tips, you know, how people were breeding and stuff. Obviously people think that they're worse than Emerald, but I think they're just the perfect, like, just all things aside, I think they're just a great remake. You know, obviously you can make them harder yourself if you want to. It's not that hard, you know, do a Nuzlocke, do whatever. These games are just, in my opinion, just great games. We've got Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. This one's tough for me to place because I know that Ultra Sun and Moon are better. I enjoy Ultra Sun and Moon better, a mid-tier, because this was in that same era, although it was only for about a month or so. It was only for about a month or so before I finished intermediate, so I didn't get to play these ones as much. So they're not necessarily S tier for me. I feel like the thing that makes these S tier is just the community I kind of built with my friends around them, and just the amount of time I'd sunk into these games. I was actually in Japan when these games came out. Like, I went to Japan for a little bit. I originally was gonna cancel my pre-order for them and buy the Japanese game, and I'm so glad I didn't, because the game wouldn't have worked on my DS. But I remember waking up one morning and seeing everyone was playing it. I was like, come on, man, come on. I really wanted to play them so bad. I just have so many fond memories around these games. Great games overall. People hate them for some reason. I love them. They're good games. Next we have Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Okay, don't hate me for any of this, but I would put these personally at S tier as well. And I'm sure you can see a bit of a pattern going on here. These games are all ones that people would usually put down in D or F tier or whatever. For me, I just treasure them, I love them, mainly because these are the games I played the most, and I think you'll find that with any person, the games they played the most when they were younger even, just like are the ones they enjoy the most, the ones they like the most. They're just an improvement on everything Sun and Moon had. They were an A tier. It's the same thing with the Emerald and Platinum situation. They just improved on everything. They gave extra content. They became an S tier because of that. And it's basically everything I said about Sun and Moon, just they've been elevated more just with the extra content they've had. I'm gonna do some real quick scaling before I rank these next games. Alright, so technically I have played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but I haven't played much of them. From what I can say about them, I love the art style. It just is the same Pokemon X, Pokemon Y art style. Just high resolution. I love that art style. I'd love to see it make a return in the future sometime. But yeah, I can't speak too much on it. The catching mechanic, actually no, I did when I first played it. I totally didn't realize that you had to have your Switch controller disconnected. Like I didn't understand how to make the controls work because my controller wasn't working, and you have to have you have to use the Joy-Con, which I was not a fan of. So I would probably place these lower, or maybe I place them kind of, I don't know, actually I have no idea where I place them, but that's why I'm just going to keep them never played. You know, I'm going to keep as a safe bet. Now we've got Pokemon Sword and Shield. You know what? These games are super inoffensive. They're not particularly good, they're not bad either. But I enjoyed them. I had a fun time playing them. So I'm just going to chuck them in B. Gigantamaxing. Interesting mechanic. I did like the DLC. I think they added extra content. You know, extra couple of hours for you to do, for you to explore, for you to catch. All that stuff. But yeah, I think they're a solid middle of the line game. Really good entry point for new people to the series, which I think is fantastic for them. Also, about the scaling, please don't get mad at me because I put red and blue. I don't dislike any of these games. I don't dislike any of them. Just because it's in the lowest tier doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means it's the worst out of the whole franchise. Just that it means, in my opinion, they are the least impressive. Obviously, the classic Pokemon wouldn't be what it is without Pokemon, without these two games down here. So yeah, I'm chucking those down there. As for the new two games, Pokemon Diamond, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I would probably have to chuck them, because they're not on this list, I would probably have to chuck them down in D tier, lowest D. They're just, I didn't really have much fun with them at all, despite the fact that Diamond and Pearl, the originals, are up here. You know, they don't really fix many of the issues with Diamond and Pearl. In fact, if they feel more clunky than these original games. One thing I hate about them is you're walking around, boom, you get stuck on one little corner. It's the most annoying thing ever. The running animations suck. The game just looks not nice in my opinion. I feel like we should have had the game in the style of Pokemon X and Y. It just would have helped it. Obviously, Ilka. It just feels like a dollar store ripoff of a 3D Pokemon game. That's the best way I can explain it. Those first trailers, I was like, yes. The immediate second I saw the whole thing, I was like, no, like the KSI, I mean. Pokemon Legends Arceus, I would put in never played because I have never played it. I didn't buy it. From what I've seen, it looks alright. From what I've seen, it looks like it would be an A tier, maybe a B tier. Super inoffensive looking game. I've actually heard it's pretty hard. It's got some good battles in it, which is what I like to hear. But yeah, if I had played those games, I would definitely have put them there. Alright, so this is my final tier list. Hopefully it doesn't offend you too much. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. It's not as long as my last tier list video, but I do plan to make a few more tier list videos in the future. But yeah, this is just a quick one I had to make, just because I wanted to get all my thoughts out there before the new games come out, and also I wanted mainly to get my thoughts on these games so that I can prove and definitively say I've been saying for years that I love these games, because soon, I'm feeling it, soon we're going to see a Pokemon X and Y boom again. Like, people are going to say they're loving these games all over the place, but me, I'm the first one. I am the true fan. You guys are all just fakers because you see the nostalgia goggles. Me, I am true fan. These games are the best. They are the best.